So my question to you is, why are we still at 100K? Like, what's going on? This is boring. We're like poking, I don't know if you've seen the meme.
Yeah.
The guy poking Bitcoin with a stick.
Things take longer than people think, you know? Investor behavior is slow to change. It's really, most people who have investable capital, their primary job is not investing that capital. They have a profession of some kind. They're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they're an entrepreneur, and they give their capital to a trusted third party who specializes that, and they say, whatever you think. And they've had this playbook for decades of this diversified portfolio and certain amount of bonds, certain amount of equities, and there's no place for Bitcoin in that portfolio, right? In this mentality. So the first place that people start to think about maybe Bitcoin, there's a place for this, is, well, okay, it's a digital gold, right? And maybe we can put some in, you know, take X% of my gold allocation and let's put some Bitcoin in there. But the challenge with that is most people don't want to own gold, right? They're like, yeah, I don't need that little store value thing. That's not appealing to me. So the market that we're talking to there from the investor world is relatively small. And as people start to realize a couple things, number one, the biggest problem the entire world has is a store of value. Inflation rates are not what your government is telling you. And I feel like this narrative is growing and people are starting to understand this more, that the real inflation rate is different than what you're being told. And once people understand that, and once people understand that your S&P 500 thing that's delivering you 10%, you're on a treadmill. You're not getting wealthier. You're not making any progress. And they start looking for ways to actually store their, you know, value outside of this fiat system. I think we'll see a lot of traction from a variety of, you know, places. In particular, I think nation states with fiat currency are going to be huge adopters. There's more than 160 fiat currencies that still exist. You know, 50 years from now, I'd be very surprised if we have more than 20. So what's going to happen to 100 plus fiat currencies that are going away? I mean, all 100 of those countries could print their own crappy currency, which is dying right now, and buy Bitcoin with it, or they could buy Bitcoin and back their currency with it, or switch to Bitcoin. There's a number of things they could do, but the bottom line is there are a lot of people in those countries and the countries themselves that are dying, right? They're experiencing financial death. So there's a lot of demand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, and one of the things also, Eric, which is the idea of inflation. Right. I think most of society has been sold on this idea that money needs to lose purchasing power in order to function.
Yeah.
I personally, like, that to me is the most perplexing thing, right?
Total BS.
And, you know, there's never been a money that has existed like Bitcoin, where every single day that Bitcoin continues to exist, it proves that not only can money exist without inflation, I know it's not deflationary, but I'm going to use the term anyways. Money can exist that is deflationary. I'm just using it for the sake of this conversation. So what's your take on that? Like, do you think this is like, of course, there's institutional adoption, there's potentially nation state adoption, talk about the strategic Bitcoin reserve on the federal level, on the state level. What about individuals? Do you see this becoming like individuals all over the world adopting Bitcoin as they realize that it's just better money?
I mean, it's the most egalitarian thing on the planet, right? The truth is, and I was always perplexed by the fact that there wasn't more support for Bitcoin on the Democrat side of politics, because the constituency that they claim to represent, you know, your paycheck to paycheck worker who does have a little bit of savings, whether it's $20 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever it is, they're saving in a fiat currency that is getting killed, and they're the ones suffering the most. Whereas if they were saving in something that was actually appreciating on a relative basis to fiat currency, they might actually get ahead. And then you talk about how there's so many people on the planet that are unbanked, you know, who can't get banked, and that's why they can't save. But they all have a smartphone, an Android phone of some kind. As long as you can have an Android phone, you can bank yourself in Bitcoin in something that is going to appreciate in value, not depreciate. So I do think that individuals are going to be the biggest beneficiary of Bitcoin's benefits. nation states companies obviously will participate, and they'll do it on a larger scale. But it's most important for the individual, in my opinion. Yeah, inflation is just like this pernicious tax on people. And if you're really cynical, you could take a view that this is government's way of suppressing the masses and keeping people down. I don't think you need to be that cynical. Like you said, we just didn't have money this perfect before, and now we do. And it just takes, this is some pretty high level education and thought stuff for the average person to grasp. Most people don't start questioning, is the inflation rate that I'm being told real? What is inflation? What does it mean? How does it even affect my life? Most people think, yeah, it doesn't matter to me, man. I don't care. I don't have any stocks. Like, it doesn't, So most people just don't get it. So there's a lot of education that needs to take place.
What do you think is going to happen to governments, right? So like one of the, again, this is like you said, this is deep down the rabbit hole, but one of the primary funding mechanisms for governments that have popular fiat currencies, I'll put it like that, is printing money. You can make a solid argument that with the adoption of Bitcoin, all of a sudden that revenue stream starts to go away. And no?
I mean, it could. I think that's too cynical.
Okay. And how so?
Well, governments can embrace Bitcoin. So like, I designed these US Treasury bonds for Bitcoin that hopefully are getting presented to the future Secretary of the Treasury.
That's fascinating.
Where the government could issue these zero coupon bonds. So zero coupon bond doesn't have a coupon that pays an interest rate. You buy it at an original issue discount, and it accretes to the face value at maturity, and then you get paid. So say a 10-year zero coupon treasury bond now you might buy for, it's got a par value of $1,000. You may pay $650 today, and in 10 years you get $1,000. And I don't know, that probably equates to something like a 6 or 7% yield. But the government could issue those bonds and say, we're going to use the proceeds to buy Bitcoin. And then that bond could be callable every year at par, right? So if you paid $650 for it today and it gets called in the end of 1 year, you're going to get a much higher return. Like you'll get a 35% return if you paid $650, right? Because you're getting $1,000 after 1 year. And the government could tie that to the performance of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is up 100% at the end of year one, we pay off the bond and you make 35%. The government's thrilled. They issued $1 billion of this 10-year note, and they took the $1 billion, they bought $1 billion of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin's now worth $2 billion, and they share some of it with the investor. So, and you could have that callable every year up until maturity. So in the worst case scenario, the investor is getting whatever the normal yield for a 10-year zero coupon treasury bond would be. And if Bitcoin performs really well in the interim, they're going to get a better return than they normally would. So it's kind of a win-win. The government gets to raise money to buy Bitcoin and gets to share some of the, profit with the investor.
That's fascinating. And do you think so? And you said that there's interest in the current administration to do this. Eric,
I don't know. I don't know that there's interest. I have a friend and a business partner who is friendly with some folks in the administration who is going to share this idea with them. So we'll see. Hopefully they have an interest.
I mean, one of the things I never forget that Saylor said was the first country that uses their money printer to buy Bitcoin is going to win.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to win. But yes, there's certainly advantages to being first, just like we have a little bit of an advantage to the 90% of the population.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to HODL while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out Ledn.io today.